You wake up every day with that feeling of emptiness, as if you were doing a lot but living little. The clock ticks, the tasks pile up, but inside you, only a silent question grows. What's all this for? It's not laziness. It's not a lack of strength. It's a lack of meaning. Because when you work just out of obligation, each hour weighs like a burden. But when you serve your purpose, the burden becomes pleasure, and work stops being effort. It becomes an expression of your soul. Napoleon Hill said, "The person who has no defined purpose is nothing more than a boat adrift in the sea of life." The question is, are you living or just surviving? Waking up with an emptiness in your chest as if you were trapped in a cycle that no longer makes sense. Getting up, going to work, doing what needs to be done. But without presence, without energy, without soul. It's as if you were watching your own life from the outside, without really being part of it. Your mind screams for change, but you don't know exactly what to do or where to start. Maybe you've tried to motivate yourself by watching videos, listening to inspirational quotes, looking for ready-made formulas. Maybe you've even thought that changing jobs, cities, or professions would solve the problem. But the truth is that nothing external can save you from an internal crisis. The feeling of being lost comes from a lack of clarity. Not clarity about what you do, but about why you do it. And as long as this why is unclear, everything you try to build will seem fragile, forced, or empty. Some people wake up with a busy routine and still feel like they're wasting their lives. Do you know why? Because work without purpose is like running on a treadmill. You get tired, but you don't move forward. The world pushes us to live on autopilot. Produce, meet deadlines, pay bills, please people. But where do you fit into all of this? You weren't made to just survive. You were made to express something that only you have. And as long as you continue to live just to please others or to pay bills, you will feel this anguish growing inside you. Your body will be present, but your soul will continue to be absent. Napoleon Hill, author of the classic Think and Grow Rich, said that the main cause of people's failure was not a lack of talent or opportunities. It was a lack of a defined purpose. Without a purpose, work becomes torture, routine becomes prison, and life loses its shine. Hill called this mental drift, a state in which a person lives without thinking, without deciding, without acting on their own. They are simply carried along by the winds of routine, and perhaps this is what you are experiencing now. Not because you chose to, but because you were never taught to think differently. You were made to believe that the right thing to do was to get a stable job, earn enough to survive, be grateful for what you have. But no one taught you to build a path with soul. No one told you that you have the right to live with purpose, not just with obligations. You were taught to value effort, but not intention, to worry about productivity, but not direction. And then time passes, and you start to feel a tiredness. That is not just physical. It is a tiredness of the soul, an exhaustion that comes from the feeling that no matter how much you do everything right, everything is still wrong inside. Have you ever noticed that there are people who work much less, but seem much more alive? Have you noticed how some people have a sparkle in their eyes even when doing simple activities? This has nothing to do with luck. It has to do with meaning. When work is an expression of purpose, even the simplest tasks take on weight. But when work is just an obligation, even success has a bitter taste. Many people think they are frustrated because of their job. But true frustration comes from not feeling connected to what they are doing. It is not about the position, the salary, or the status. It is about the coherence between what you do and who you are. There are people who dreamed of working in something creative, but accepted a position just for the security. Others wanted to start their own businesses, but were crushed by the fear of failure. And now they keep asking themselves, what if I had followed my heart? The problem is not having responsibilities. The problem is living as a slave to them. What makes you feel lost is not the work itself, but the feeling that it has distanced you from who you really are, that you have adapted so much to other people's expectations that you have forgotten what made you tick. The good news is that you don't have to throw everything away to change this. You don't have to quit your job, sell everything, and disappear. The transformation starts from the inside out. It starts when you decide to look at your life with courage and ask yourself, what am I really building with what I do every day? Because, yes, work can be more than just an exchange of time for money. It can be a bridge between who you are and what you want to leave in the world. It can be your stage for personal and spiritual evolution. But to do so, you need to stop acting on autopilot. You need to regain awareness of what you are doing with your time, your energy, your gift. It doesn't matter if today you work as a customer service representative, app driver, salesperson, programmer, or any other job. What matters is how you approach what you do. If you see your work as a burden, it will crush you. But if you see it as a training ground for your purpose, it will strengthen you. There are people who clean and feel proud, not because the task is noble in the eyes of the world, but because they put their soul into what they do. They know they are serving, that they are leaving a better environment, that they are learning discipline, patience, responsibility. This is purpose. This is awareness. This is freedom. And if you feel like you can't take it anymore, know that this is not weakness. It is a calling, a warning from your soul saying, hey, there's something bigger for you. Wake up. Discomfort is an invitation to change. And if you ignore this call, the pain will only get worse. But if you have the courage to listen, you'll start building a life with truth. It's not about changing everything at once. It's about changing the way you see things. Because when your perspective changes, your path changes. And then, even without moving forward, you're no longer the same. Since you were a child, you learned that working is something you have to do to survive. Not to express yourself, not to grow, just to pay the bills. You were taught that the right thing to do is to wake up early, clock in, follow orders, swallow what bothers you, and be thankful for the paycheck at the end of the month. You grew up saying that work was synonymous with tiredness, sacrifice, and suffering. And the most dangerous thing of all, you believed it. Most people keep repeating this without even questioning it, as if working until you're exhausted was a sign of character, as if settling for a life that makes you sick was something noble. But what no one tells you is how much this mentality destroys your energy, your creativity, and your will to live. Because when you learn to work just to survive, you forget how to truly live. You start to associate effort with pain, service with obligation, Monday with sadness, Friday with relief, as if it were normal to spend 5 days dragging yourself along to have 2 days trying to recover. And that is not normal. This is a warning. It is a sign that there is something wrong with the way you see work, and mainly, with the way you see yourself. The problem is not just hard work. It is working hard at something that drains you, that makes you sick, that disconnects you from what matters. Napoleon Hill said that one of the biggest mistakes people make is to look for jobs that seem secure instead of following a clear purpose. He called this mediocrity disguised as stability. How many people do you know who have stable jobs, but live in fear? Fear of losing everything, fear of not being enough, fear of not being on the right path, fear of dying without having truly lived. These people are not wrong. They were programmed that way. They were taught to value the safe, not the meaningful, to obey orders, not to create paths. And you may be in that situation now, stuck in a job that doesn't inspire you, surrounded by tasks that don't make sense, meeting demands that don't represent you, just to keep a salary, pay a bill, prove that you are capable. But deep down, feeling that each day is one more step away from who you really are. It's like living in a dark room. You get used to the darkness but forget what the light was like. You forget the feeling of being alive, excited, connected. Your mind starts to accept the little. It starts to justify the discomfort. It starts to say that work is just like that. Life is hard for everyone. One day it will get better. And so you settle. Not by choice, but by fear. Fear paralyzes. It makes you settle for crumbs when you have the potential for so much more. And the worst part, it makes you doubt yourself. It makes you believe that you have no talent, that you don't have time, that it's too late. But that's the biggest lie of all. What's stopping you from changing is not reality. It's the belief you have about it. Hill said that thought is the most powerful force in the universe, that what you believe with emotion becomes reality. And if today you believe that work is suffering, that's exactly what you'll attract. But if you start to see work as a path to expression, impact, growth, then the energy changes. And when the energy changes, everything around you starts to change too. You may think this is motivational talk, that it's nice to hear but hard to apply. And yes, it's not easy to break a mindset that's been ingrained for years, but it's possible. And it all starts with a decision to stop accepting what hurts you as if it were normal. Because it's not normal to wake up feeling anxious. It's not normal to count the days until the next holiday. It's not normal to live waiting for Friday as if it were the only moment of respite in your week. That's not life. That's prison disguised as routine. And you weren't born for that. There are people who think that changing your view of work is luxury talk. That only the rich or successful can afford that right. But changing your view doesn't require money. It requires awareness. It's possible to continue in the same job, doing the same tasks, and still live with more purpose. The difference is in the way you choose to face what you do. What seems like a burden today can become a training ground for your evolution. The simplest routine can become sacred if you put intention into it. Hill talked a lot about emotional discipline, and this starts when you stop complaining about what you have and start learning from each situation. No, you don't have to love your current job, but you do need to understand what it is teaching you. Patience, humility, perseverance, all of these are tools for your development. As long as you are blinded by pain, you will not see the value hidden in each stage of your journey. And here comes a fundamental point. The purpose is not there in front of you, waiting for you to succeed. The purpose is here and now, being built in the small actions of your day. Each attitude of yours, each choice, each response to what life gives you is shaping your path. Purpose is not a profession. It is an attitude towards life. And when you change your attitude, your vision changes. And when your vision changes, even the simplest work becomes sacred. You don't have to wait for the ideal life to live truthfully. You can choose to put soul into what you do today. And by doing so, you begin to align your work with your essence. And when that happens, everything changes. Your energy changes, your self-esteem changes, and best of all, your reality starts to change too. Because the universe does not respond to blind effort. It responds to clear intention. And when you start acting with intention, with presence, with awareness, then you leave automatic mode and enter creative mode. And that's when the magic happens. You may be tired. You may be full of doubts. You may be without direction. But if you understood what we've said so far, you've already taken the first step. The next step is to continue. It's to go deeper. It's to act even when you're afraid. Because courage is not the absence. Fear. It's to act in spite of it. And if you do that, the work that seems like a burden today can become the fertile ground for your transformation. If you want to get out of automatic mode, you need to start with the point most ignored by those who feel lost. Internal reconnection. There's no point in changing jobs, opening a business, or taking 1,000 courses if you don't know what you're really looking for. You don't need more information. You need clarity. Clarity doesn't come from the head. It comes from listening to yourself. It comes from silence, from the courage to stop and ask yourself sincerely, what moves me? What excites me? What makes me feel like I've accomplished my mission? It's when you start looking inside that the answer appears, not as a scream, but as a whisper that you've been ignoring for a long time. Most people only move when the pain becomes unbearable, when the body shows signs of exhaustion, when anxiety paralyzes, when insomnia becomes routine. But that's the symptom. The cause is the disconnection. Work has become an end in itself, and not a means of expression. When you work just to maintain a standard of living, you move away from who you are. When you work to meet other people's expectations, you slowly begin to fade away. Napoleon Hill spoke of an invisible force that connects desire and fulfillment, faith. And not religious faith, but faith as an inner certainty. The faith that there is a place where your passion finds a way to serve, that there is a role that is uniquely yours in the great puzzle of life. But this faith only awakens when you silence the external noise and start listening to yourself. That's why reconnecting begins with a simple act. Stop comparing yourself. Your path won't be the same as that of your colleague, your cousin, or the influencer you follow. Your path is yours, and that's reason enough to respect it. Because what nourishes you may not make sense to anyone else. And that's okay. You don't need permission to live your truth. You need courage. Courage to admit that you're tired. Courage to say that something isn't right. Courage to no longer accept living a lukewarm life. Because as long as you keep saying, "One day I'll change," life will keep pushing you with pain. But when you say, "Today I'll start," the universe starts to cooperate. You can start with small changes. Change your attitude towards work. Change the way you communicate. Change the energy you put into tasks. Because even if the external reality is still the same, you are no longer the same. And when you change, the world responds. You can start seeing your work as a training ground today. Every challenge is a teacher in disguise. Every conflict is a chance to develop self-control. Every difficult day is an opportunity to strengthen your mind. And when you start playing this game, the game changes. Purpose is not about changing careers, it's about changing your attitude. It's about asking yourself, what is this teaching me? Because when you learn, you grow. And when you grow, the work begins to make sense, even if it's not ideal yet. And over time, when your vision aligns, the path opens up. You'll start to notice ideas coming out of nowhere, people crossing your path, opportunities appearing without forced effort. This isn't magic. It's coherence between what you feel, think, and do. Hill called this inner harmony. When you live in alignment, the universe responds with synchronicity. But you have to be careful. Because what sabotages your growth is not a lack of time. It's distraction. It's having your body in one place and your head in another. It's doing things without intention. It's living on autopilot, waiting for life to change on its own. It won't. Change starts with you. And only when you take control of your energy will things start to make sense. You may be in a job that isn't what you dream of, but it could be the soil where your new version begins to grow. The question is, what have you been doing with this soil? Have you been complaining about it, or have you been learning to cultivate? Because those who cultivate on hard ground learn to value each fruit that grows. And here comes one of the most ignored triggers of personal development: commitment. People want change without sacrifice. They want freedom without responsibility. But Hill taught that you only achieve what you want when you are willing to pay the price. Not the price of gratuitous pain, but the price of transformation. The price of abandoning old habits, of facing fears, of being loyal to your truth. Do you want change? Then you need to become someone who sustains that change. There's no point in wanting a job with purpose if you still sabotage yourself with procrastination, distraction, and lack of presence. Purpose requires focus. It requires emotional maturity. It requires conscious action. And that starts today. With you observing yourself, questioning yourself, respecting yourself, because when you respect yourself, the world learns to respect you. And when you start putting intention into each small step, the universe starts to guide you with more clarity. You may not see everything at once, but you will see the next step, and that's enough. Because those who walk with intention always find a way. And when the path is yours, it doesn't matter how difficult it is. You walk with soul, and that's what sustains you on difficult days. Don't underestimate the power of this decision: to return to yourself, to recover your truth, to put purpose where before there was only obligation. This is the key that transforms not only your work, but your entire life. Have you ever noticed how some people do what seems simple and still manage to deeply impact those around them? A waiter who looks you in the eye and truly listens to you. A driver who sincerely wishes you a good morning. A teacher who loves what he does so much that every word he says touches you. They are not in high positions, but they work with soul, and that changes everything. Working with soul is not about having the perfect job. It is about putting truth into every gesture, intention into every action, awareness into every word. It is when you stop living in survival mode and start transforming what you do into an act of presence. When you do something with soul, you are not just fulfilling a function. You are giving a part of yourself. You feel it, you transmit it, and more than that, it comes back to you. Because the world rewards those who live authentically. It may not be immediate, but it is inevitable. Napoleon Hill said that, "What you sow you reap in multiplied." And if you sow frustration, anger, complaints, fear, guess what will come back? But if you sow love, dedication, intention, even in small gestures, life gives you that back in surprising ways. Because it's not about the size of what you do. It's about the energy you put in. You can be washing dishes, driving for hours, doing a task that no one values, and yet putting such a clean vibration into what you do that it transforms your day. It changes your field. It clears your mind. It opens doors you never imagined. Because working with your soul is aligning your actions with your essence, and that changes your frequency. Hill also talked about energy transmutation, the power to transform negative feelings into productive force. Anger can become discipline. Fear can become focus. Frustration can become clarity. But that only happens when you stop fighting reality and start using it as the raw material for your evolution. Work doesn't have to be your enemy. It can be your mirror, showing you where your blocks are, where you need to grow, where your energy is being wasted. Work, when used well, gives you feedback all the time. It shows you where you are still hiding, where you are betraying yourself, where you are acting out of fear. And that is why work is one of the deepest paths to self-knowledge, because it exposes you, it challenges you, it demands your presence, and if you have the courage to face it, you will come out much stronger. You will come out more aware. You will come out with the clarity you are looking for. But here is a warning. Most people run away from this mirror. They complain about work. They run away from responsibility. They distract themselves with social media. They seek instant gratification so as not to feel empty, and so they lose themselves. Until one day they wake up and realize that they no longer know what they love, what they want, what they feel, because they spent years acting on autopilot. If this is your case, breathe. It is not too late. There is nothing wrong with you. You are just disconnected. And reconnection begins with one step: doing what needs to be done, consciously, with presence, with intention. It doesn't matter if it's simple. Do it as if it were sacred. You start transforming your life not when you change jobs, but when you change your presence. When you decide that you're going to do your best, even if no one sees it, even if no one recognizes it, because you know that this strengthens you from within. It keeps you away from chronic frustration. It rebuilds you. And when you start acting like this, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like a victim. You take control. And those who take control of their own energy start to attract new possibilities because they are in a state of worthiness. They are vibrating in line with what they desire. And this opens invisible doors. Some people will say, "But I'm too tired, I don't have time, I don't have strength." And that's okay. The world demands too much from you. But it's not the world that will free you. It's you. It's your decision to stop, take a deep breath and ask, what is the intention behind what I'm doing right now? When you answer this, you return to the center. You leave the chaos and enter into clarity. It is at this moment that work stops being a punishment and becomes a tool. You understand that it is part of your refinement, and when you accept this, you gain a lightness that no one can take away. Because you are no longer fighting against life, you are aligning with it. This is where you begin to live with purpose. Not because everything is perfect, but because you have given meaning to what was previously empty. Because you have understood that everything you do can be a means of expansion. And this makes you grow even when external conditions do not change. This is what working with soul is. It is transforming routine into a path. It is transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is living with intention where before there was only obligation. And this changes your frequency, changes your environment, changes your life. Because those who vibrate with purpose attract what is in tune. There is a moment in the journey of every human being when something inside begins to scream louder than the world around them. It's as if suddenly you can no longer ignore that feeling that you're in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing, living a life that isn't yours. This moment can be scary, but it's also sacred, because it's there that the mind awakens. And when that happens, there's no going back. Awakening isn't noisy. It doesn't come with fireworks or an applauding audience. It comes in the silence of your deepest doubts. When you ask yourself, where am I going with all this? Is this really what I want for myself? Why do I wake up every day feeling more empty, even though I'm doing everything they said was right? These questions are the beginning of a turning point. And if you have the courage to listen to them, you will realize that you don't need to change the whole world. You just need to change the way you see things. Because what holds you back is not the work itself. It's the idea that you are trapped. It's the belief that there is no way out. It's the fear of taking risks. But this fear, most of the time, is not real. It's a poorly told story that your mind has been feeding for years. Napoleon Hill said that the only real limitation we have is the one we accept as true. And when you believe that you are limited, you begin to act in a limited way. Your energy diminishes, your shine fades, your power disappears. But that is not the end. It is just the beginning of a new choice. Today, you can choose a new story. One where you accept that you don't know all the answers, but are willing to seek them. Where you no longer define yourself by what you have been told. Where you begin to act based on who you want to become, and not on who the world expects you to be. This is the difference between living by default and living by purpose. Default makes you repeat yourself. Purpose makes you expand. Default limits you to what is safe. Purpose challenges you to grow. Default gives you comfort. Purpose gives you strength. And even if the path of purpose seems more difficult, it is the only one that gives you peace. But to follow this path, you need to let go of some illusions. The first one is the idea that you need to be ready to start. That doesn't exist. No one starts ready. You prepare yourself along the way. It is the movement that transforms you. It is the action that refines you. And the more you act, the more you understand. The second illusion is to think that purpose will reveal itself like a light from the sky, with signs saying, "Go this way." It won't. Purpose reveals itself in practice, in doing, in experimenting, in making mistakes, in observing. It is not a destination. It is a process of internal alignment. You start by doing what is within your reach with more awareness, and over time, what seemed small becomes huge. Because now you are present, now you are whole, now you are connected to what you are doing. And this connection changes everything. Hill said that action is the true test of desire. There is no point in wanting a life with purpose if you do not act with purpose in the little things. Desiring is not enough. You need to demonstrate this desire with attitude, with courage, with constancy. Maybe you need to change course. Maybe you need to let go of people, places, ideas. Maybe you need to start over from scratch. But if this new beginning is true, it will give you a strength that no false stability can give, because you will no longer be running after acceptance. You will be living in coherence with your soul. And it is this coherence that transforms your energy. It is what makes you magnetic. People feel when someone is at peace with what they do. They feel when someone is clear about their path. And they start to get closer, to invite you to projects, to trust you, to be inspired by you. Not because you have the answers, but because you had the courage to seek them. Because you did what most people are afraid of, listening to yourself, choosing yourself, living with intention. And that is rare, and everything that is rare becomes valuable. Therefore, do not underestimate the power of your daily choices. Every time you say yes to what brings you closer to your essence, you say no to what takes you away from it. Every time you act with intention, you cancel a repetition. And every time you commit to your truth, you create a new reality. You do not need great external revolutions. You need an internal revolution. You need to use your mind as an ally, your energy as a tool, and your faith as fuel. Because when these three are aligned, nothing stops you. Your turnaround begins when you stop running away from yourself and start reconnecting with your origin, with your strength, with your value, and with the mission that only you can fulfill. Faith is not believing that everything will work out. Faith is acting even when everything seems to be going wrong. It is getting up without guarantees. It is planting even without seeing the fruit. It's about keeping going even in the dark. And this kind of faith isn't passive. It's not religious, it's not magical. It's a mental and spiritual force that changes the game when no one else believes you can still win. Napoleon Hill put it bluntly. Faith is the state of mind that can be induced or created by the repeated assertion of instructions to the subconscious mind. In other words, faith isn't a random feeling. It's a construct, something you train yourself to do, something you choose to cultivate every day, especially on the days when everything seems to be falling apart. And why is this important? Because your life will be tested, your decisions will be tested, your courage will be tested, and in those moments, it's not talent that holds you back, it's faith. Faith in what you're doing, faith in who you're becoming, faith in the intelligence behind life, because you may not understand it now, but life knows what it's doing to you. Hill insisted that faith was essential to accessing the sixth sense, that level of wisdom that goes beyond the rational. And that's where the difference lies between those who live solely based on logic and those who push the boundaries. Logic says, I can't do it. Faith says, I'll try anyway. Logic points out the obstacles. Faith points out the direction. But here's the key point. Faith without action is illusion, and action without faith is exhaustion. When you put the two together, you create movement with purpose. You act with direction. You work with conviction. And that makes your energy multiply. Because now you're no longer waiting to feel like it. You're determined. This kind of faith is not blind. It is conscious. It is based on repetition, on visualization, on internal language, on focus. Every time you repeat to yourself, I can do it. I will achieve it. I have a purpose when you are shaping your subconscious. You are feeding your mind with strength, not doubt. And that changes everything, because the mind is the basis of everything. Hill explained that your subconscious will absorb anything you repeat with emotion. So, if you repeat fear, insecurity, complaints, that's what it absorbs. But if you repeat courage, faith, certainty, that starts to manifest. Maybe you are saying, but I've tried, I've prayed, I've done everything. And I understand you. The pain of unrewarded effort is real. But here's a hard truth. Maybe it's not that it didn't work. Maybe it's that you gave up too soon. Because many people stop when they're about to turn. Many people back off when resistance increases. But resistance is a sign that you're on the right path. Do you know why? Because life tests those who are ready to receive. And if you want something great, you need to develop a faith big enough to sustain that something. Because success is not built only with talent or opportunity. It requires an internal structure, and faith is that structure. Now think about it. What would happen if you started acting as if you were already this strong, confident, focused, purposeful person? What if, instead of waiting for signs, you became the sign? What if, instead of doubting, you affirmed? That changes your field. It changes your attitude. It changes your decisions. The truth is that faith does not eliminate fear, but it gives you the courage to walk with it. And when you start acting with faith, even when you are afraid, you become unstoppable. Because fear loses its power. It may even appear, but it no longer paralyzes you. This type of faith does not depend on external factors. It comes from within. And that is why it is so powerful, because no one can take it away from you. No one can control your mind if you learn to command it. And that is what Hill taught most. Control your mind, or it will control you. Many people get distracted trying to change their environment, their boss, the government, the economy, when in fact the turning point is in the way you think, feel, and decide. It is in the faith you cultivate, in what you say to yourself every day, because that is what shapes your perception, and your perception defines your experience. It is not magic. It is direction. It is not a secret. It is a decision. When you decide to trust, even without seeing it, you access a level of strength that no one understands. And this strength manifests itself in the details, in the way you get out of bed, in the way you look at life, in the energy you carry even on difficult days. And one day, without realizing it, you look back and realize, I am no longer the same person. Something inside me has changed. I am stronger. I am more centered. I am more truthful. And that is worth more than any diploma, any position, any applause, because that's what no one can take away from you, who you became in the process. You weren't born to just clock in, pay bills, and wait for the weekend. Your existence goes far beyond a fixed salary, an automatic routine, or following soulless orders. You have a mission here, and this mission is connected, yes, with your work. Not necessarily with what you do today, but with what you can transform through what you do. The key is how you see work. If you see it as a punishment, it becomes a burden. But if you see it as a channel, it becomes an expression of your soul. And that changes everything. Because when you understand that work is not just about paying bills, but about developing your potential, then each task takes on a new meaning. Hill said that any work can be elevated to the level of greatness if it is done with a definite purpose and a disciplined mind. This means that it doesn't matter what you do today. What matters is what you are building within yourself while you are doing it. Whether you are serving coffee, selling clothes, cleaning floors, or managing a team, all of these can be sacred if done with intention. And here's the thing, the intention behind what you do is more powerful than the title you hold. Because intention has energy. It transmits strength, it attracts opportunities, it repositions you in the world. When you act with purpose, the universe aligns itself to show you new paths. But as long as you act with complaint and resentment, you close doors without realizing it. It doesn't mean settling for what doesn't make you happy. It means doing your best where you are, while building the bridge to where you want to be. Because no one jumps straight to the top. You grow in layers. And each phase, no matter how simple it may seem, is shaping your ability to lead, serve, resist, create, and grow. What you need to understand is that purposeful work doesn't start with a new job. It starts with a new mindset. When you stop thinking, I have to do this, and start thinking, I choose to do this for now, something changes. You move from being a victim to taking control. You stop just surviving, and you start evolving. And the more you commit to your evolution, the clearer your path becomes. Not because someone shows you, but because you become more sensitive to what resonates with your soul. You start saying no to what no longer makes sense. You start attracting more aligned connections. You start seeing opportunities that were previously invisible. This is the result of living with intention. You stop working just for the sake of working, and you start serving. You start inspiring. You start overflowing. And this overflow is what creates abundance. Because true prosperity doesn't come just from earning more. It comes from generating more value. And value is born from awareness. This is why so many rich people remain empty. Because getting rich without purpose is like building a mansion in the desert. It looks beautiful from afar, but it doesn't sustain the soul. Now, when you work with purpose, even a little becomes a lot. Because you feel peace, you feel flow, you feel like you're on the right path, even when it's hard. And yes, there will be days when you doubt. There will be moments of tiredness, confusion, comparison. But in those moments, you remember why you started. Remember that you're not in this life just to win a trophy or recognition. You're here to make an impact, to serve, to grow, to evolve, to leave a trail of light wherever you go. Hill said that riches begin with a state of mind, with a defined purpose, with faith. Notice, it's not the other way around. You don't need to get rich to have purpose. You need purpose to become rich inside and out, because that's what sustains the journey. That's what gives you direction. That's what keeps your energy steady when everything around you falters. And when you discover that you can, indeed, transform your work into a mission, no matter what phase you're in, you gain something that no one can take away: meaning. And meaning is fuel. Meaning lifts you up on difficult days. Meaning protects you from comparison. Meaning shields you from self-sabotage. So if you're lost, start asking yourself, what of all this still makes sense to me? What can I transform today, even if it's small? What attitude will bring me closer to the person I want to become? Because these questions put you back in control. And when you take back control, you regain your strength. You're not here by chance. Your pain has purpose. Your work has purpose. Your journey has purpose. Even if today seems confusing, even if everything seems dark, keep going, move, serve, grow, and trust. Because as long as you're acting with faith, with intention, and with truth, the universe will be guiding you to your place. And in that place, you will no longer work just to live. You will live through what you do. You will inspire by example. You will thrive with purpose. You will lead with soul. And that is what changes everything.